Okay, and on part two, just interested, I mean, that your dad's kiosk was set in the heart of Camberwell, and you say in the book that it was sort of an area that was rife with gangsters and villainy, but was your dad ever like a victim of, did anybody sort of say, pay us protection or we'll burn your kiosk down, or was there any sort of theft or anything like that?
I think we were too small fry for that, to be honest. No is the answer. What there was quite a lot of protectionism of drinking clubs and nightclubs and things like that. I mean, it's quite well documented with the Richardsons and the various gangs, and falling out with the Craig twins in the West End. That was all a league above anything that we ever saw.
Okay, and you tell me that basically the legalisation of bookmaking was the end of your dad's career as far as an illegal.
Well, he was getting a decent living as a backstreet bookie, if you like. And then when betting shops came along, clearly, I think it was around about 1961, that was, for a gambler, that was terrible from his point of view, because he used to be up at 6 in the shop till say 12, put all the money in his pocket. Mum took over for 12 onwards, and of course, straight down the betting shop. Need I say more? You can imagine.
Tell us about the Connie Mould accumulator.
Well, when he was, most of the clientele, my dad's clientele, in terms of betting, were from the estate, and most of them were just sort of, shilling each way, this shilling, small fry, but quite a volume of it. And there was one guy called Connie Mould, who my dad used to sort of treat as a bit of a sort of a bank, really, because he used to have these ridiculous 4 and 5 fold trebles, big prices, no chance. He used to look at the bet and say, that's got no chance, that's got no chance. And then one horrible day, I think the first 2 won at really big prices, and it was accumulator, 4-fold, and he said, the third one still got, and the third one won. Now he was on to losing hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and the question was, should he lay it off? And I think he ended up backing the fourth leg for £100 or so. It was quite a decent price, but overall he lost £1,000, hundreds of pounds.
So it's pretty hairy. Now, you got a bit ribby at times. Financial things got a bit hard when your dad was on a losing streak. Got really bad, and then your mum pulled one out the bag at the bingo.
Yeah, Dad, as I say, was playing up the takings in the betting shop, and gradually over the years, we got further and further in debt. And at the time, the main supplier of the shop were the big tobacco companies, Gallagher, John Player, people like that, Menzies for the papers, all the bills to each of them ran up, and I think there was a threat to take us to bankruptcy court. Well, my dad said, well, let them take us, firms go bust all the time. But my mum probably was more shrewd, and she said, but that's only for business, we're sole traders, they can take our home. So there was a lot of conflict, and I think the debt ran up to about £1,300. The bailiffs were at the door, and then my mum went to the bingo, the Gorman Cinema at Peckham, which was a top-ranked bingo. They had bingo clubs all over the country, and I think it was the last game before the break, was always the national game, they called it, and whoever called up with the fewest number of numbers in the country won the jackpot. She won £1,500, which was extraordinary, really. She always said the Lord leads the way, and he certainly led the way that night. But then again, they had the row. My dad still wanted to go bankrupt, She paid them all off.
Now, you and your brother went in different directions early on, both influenced by the kiosk. Johnny, as we've already mentioned, became a professional gambler, and you became interested in newspapers.
Yeah, well, I was very lucky. I used to sell newspapers. More and more, I was spending more hours in the shop selling as I got older. And I was quite sort of well read in terms of newspapers. I read them every day. I could see the different nuance in style of different papers. And I grew to sort of really become interested in the way they were written, the stories that were written. And I decided, I think about 12 or 13, that I wanted to be a journalist. And it sort of helped me, really. The other thing that helped me in terms of my eventual career was that being serving people from the age of 10 and 11, with respect, and I got very accomplished at chatting to people from all walks of life. I also became quite good at weighing people up quite quickly. You meet someone, and in journalism, not so much now because a lot's done by email, but we always had to go on a story, and if you knocked on someone's door, you could tell within a couple of seconds the type of person they were, and it always helped me, get us. So the kiosk gave me the grounding, I think, to become a journalist.
Okay, now people often think of the gambling industry, especially back then, as being a little seedy. But up until I met you, I hadn't heard of Nick Tomlin's celebrated quote. You're going to tell us what it is?
Yeah, well, during my research in trying to be a journalist, I saw a quote from, I think he was a Sunday Times reporter. He says, the only things required for being a journalist is rat-like cunning, plausibility, and a little literary skill. And I thought, well, that's me. And I'd learned that from the kiosk, actually.
Now you were lucky because you were encouraged at school, and there was a teacher that took you under the wing and sent you to the Press Association. So,
yeah,
that was...
Well, one of the themes of my book is how lucky I've been, not just, in life, but from a career point of view. I mean, have you seen the film Sliding Doors, where, the two scenarios in the film? One is if the bloke gets on the tube, well, there's one scenario, and he just misses the tube, on the other is a totally different story. And my life was, I've had so many fortunate sliding doors moments, and one of them was at school. One rainy playground, we weren't allowed in the main block during break times, but it was raining, so I slipped in the door. I went to the library, and I said to the librarian, she said, "Oh, you're not allowed in here." I said, "Oh no, I just want to get some advice on how to become a journalist." And fortunately, just round the corner, across the aisle of books, there was the head of English, and he sort of put his head round. He said, "Who wants?" He said, like, he didn't know me. I went to the biggest comprehensive school in London, and he said, "Who wants? Do you want to be a journalist?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "What's your name?" So I told him my name. And he said, "Come and see me at 4 o'clock." And I think what happened is that between then and 4 o'clock, he must have spoken to my English teacher, because I think English was probably the only subject I was any good at. And he said to me, "You've got no chance of being a journalist." He says, it's full of nepotism. They take people out of university. He said, "But there is a way. Get a job in Fleet Street as a runner, and then spend, say, a year, 18 months there, and learn shorthand and typing and stuff. Then you've got more credential for a future newspaper editor." And that's precisely what happened. I got the job in Fleet Street as a runner in the Press Association, and that was great because going in there the first day with this enormous newsroom, probably the size of a tennis court, and the noise and the sounds and the smell and the clutter, and people old-fashioned typewriters, and I was hooked on day one. But again, I was lucky there. The very first week I started work, arguably the biggest story ever, a man landed on the moon. And my part in it was it was on the television, there was a reporter bashing out basically what we could see on the television. My job was to run his copy 10 yards to the news desk. So I was a link in the chain of the biggest story.
Now those days in Fleet Street are legendary for sort of liquid lunches and big characters. So were you corrupted in that way? Was it half a dozen pints
I wasn't
for lunch?
part of that because the journalists were obviously in a different pay league to me. I was a poor runner, but I was very often required to turf or to find reporters that were in pubs to get them out to go on a story. You know, I remember the night that Ulster blew up, literally. The Ulster Troubles, which lasted 30 odd years, whatever it was. The night it blew up, it was about 8:30 at night. I was sitting on the news desk as the runner, and there was a phone call from Belfast. The army had clashed with a group of protesters, a bomb had gone off, somebody got shot, and I had to run up and down Fleet Street trying to find these two reporters whose names were Day, I've forgotten the other one, Mike Day, and Churchman and Day. And I turfed them out of the City Golf Club and told them, and they were on a flight to Belfast that night, straight from the office, and I think they didn't come back for about 8 months. And when they did come back, of course, they put their expenses in, and everyone went, "You joke?" They claimed an out-of-town allowance for sort of 8 months every day. They each bought big sports cars after that.
Well, no, totally different sort of ambience. You nearly became part of the on-course starting price team.
Yeah, well, the Press Association had a football team, and I used to play for the football team. And the team was drawn from different departments, and I met some people from different departments that I had before that I had nothing to do with. There was, racing department. The guy called Neil Wilkins, who at that time was as a returns SP man for the Press Association. I think he went on to become Chandler's voice PR, didn't he?
Yeah.
Jonathan Powell, who was a reporter on the racing desk at PA, went on to BBC.
Previous interviewee on this series.
Big pump?
He's a previous interviewee on
Oh,
this
right,
series.
brilliant. Okay, I'll have to catch up with that. And so I met other people from other departments, and Neil said to me, we need a junior at the races. He said, the idea is you'll be apprentice for 6 months, and then you'll become one of the on-course returning back to betting. And it was more money, it was quite good expenses because I was nearly always out of town. There was still that out-of-town allowance. And I went and had a chat with the racing editor. He wanted me to have the job. And Jonathan Powell, he was our goalie, and he gave me a lift to the Hackney Marshes one day. And we stopped for a bacon sandwich and a coffee. And I told him, I said, I've been offered a job with PA Racing in your department. He said, what else? So I said, a junior returning the SP. And he said, well, what do you want to be? I said, well, I want to be a journalist. He said, follow your dreams. And I did. Thank you, John.